Hey guys, Travis Gillespie here. In the past videos we looked at converting customary units, and now we're going to move forward from there and look at converting metric units. So let's get that written down. Now there are a few tricks that will help you when converting metric units. I'm going to talk about a mnemonic that's a trick that's helpful. It's King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Let's go ahead and write that down. So capital K, little h, little d, a b, a little d, a little c, and a little m. So King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Now you may have heard the same mnemonic that I said before, or maybe you've heard a slight variation of that, or maybe you heard an entirely different mnemonic. The cool thing is you could actually take these letters and create your own mnemonic. But these letters actually represent the prefixes in the metric system, and I'm just going to talk about a few of those prefixes. We have kilo, hecto, D is for deca, so D-E-K-A. This B stands for the base units, and we'll come back to it in just a second. I want to write this D stands for deci, the C stands for centi, and the M stands for milli, M-I-L-L-I. So a second ago I said this B stands for the base unit of what we're dealing with. Well, our base units could be G for grams, little m for meters, or a big L for liters. So grams deals with the mass of an object. Meters looks at measuring the length of objects, and liters looks at measuring the capacity of objects. And depending on what units you're measuring in, whether it's grams, meters, or liters, well, these prefixes can be attached to each of these sets of units. So we could attach this word kilo to grams, meters, or liters depending on what set of units you're measuring in. Let's change our color, and let's actually write that down. So I could have kilograms, capital K, little g for kilograms. I could have kilometers, capital K, little m for meters, or kilometers, and then capital K and capital L for kiloliters. Now I'm not going to write all of the abbreviations for each of the prefixes. I'm going to save that for another video. So as long as you remember that mnemonic, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, and you understand some concepts or facts that deal with the metric system, then you can convert throughout the metric system fairly easily. Okay, so the metric system's built upon multiples of 10, so base 10. Let's go down to our base set of units, grams, meters, or liters. And if I were looking at the deca set of units, well, the deca set of units are 10 times larger than the base set of units. Notice how I'm saying the units and not values or numbers. So I'm just going to write times 10 here. It's a multiple. The units are 10 times larger than the base set of units here. And now if I were to move up to hecto, the hecto set of units are 10 times larger than the deca set of units. But how many times larger are the hecto units from the base set of units? Well, that's times 10. Times 10 2 times. So it's a multiple of 10 doubled basically. So 10 times 10 is 100. So the hecto set of units are 100 times larger than the base set of units. Okay, so now I think you're starting to see these multiples of 10 appearing here. Well, guess what? The kilo set of units are 10 times larger than the hecto set of units. Well, that's from the base set of units, that's times 10 times 10 times 10. It's a multiple of 10 3 times, so that's really 1,000. So the kilo set of units are 1,000 times larger than the base set of units. Well, the deci units are 10 times smaller than the base sets of units. So I'm just going to write 10 times smaller now. Now I want you guys to be 100% clear. Let's go and fix that multiplication symbol real quick. So 10 times smaller. And I want you to be clear on, I am not telling you to multiply by 10 here or here. All I'm stating is a fact that these are multiples of 10. Some of the units are larger than the base set of units. Some of the units are smaller than the base set of units, and they are multiples of 10. So the deci units are 10 times smaller than the base units. Well, let's go down to our next set of units, the centi set of units, and I'm noticing there's not an I after centi, so let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Well, the centi set of units are 10 times smaller than the deci sets of units, or they're 100 times smaller than the base sets of units. So let's just say these are 100 times smaller. And the milli units, they are 10 times smaller than the centi units, or they are 1,000 times smaller than the base sets of units. So let's just go ahead and write down 1,000 times smaller here. Okay, let's go ahead and create a little bit more room. So I need to copy all of this information and just slide it on over. Cool. So now we've got more room to play with here. Well, earlier I stated that deca, hecto, and kilo, these sets of units are larger than the base set of units, and deci, centi, milli, they are smaller than the base sets of units. Let's go over and draw some arrows real quick. Arrows on here. Okay, so deca, it's 10 times larger, hecto, 100 times larger, kilo, 1,000 times larger, and deci, 10 times smaller, centi, 100 times smaller, milli, 1,000 times smaller than the base sets of units. But I told you, these aren't telling us to multiply here. It's just telling us that they're multiples of 10. But how do we move upward or downward along these sets of units? Well, one of the most common that will help you get started is called the stair-step method or the metric staircase. So let's just start here at a kilo. And I'm just going to draw a staircase pretty quick here. So along this staircase, let's go look at those prefixes again. We have kilo, hecto, deca, and for deca we're going to write DA, and then I'm going to skip over the base sets of units, and then we're going to write D for deci, C for centi, and M for milli. Well, we can think of our base units as being our ones values, and our next set of units, deca, it's 10 times larger than our base set of units, so let's just write times 10 here, or 10 to the first power. Hecto, well, that's 100 times larger than our base sets of units, or we could think about that as 10 to the second power. And finally, kilo, that is 1,000 times larger, or we could think of that as being 10 to the third power. So let's run down this staircase real quick. We have 10 to the third power, 10 to the second power, 10 to the first power, and when we get to our base sets of units, well, we can think of that as 10 to the power of 0. And still running down this staircase, well, our deci sets of units, they are 10 times smaller than our base sets of units, but we can't write 10 to the first power now because our exponents are getting smaller, so we have 10 to the 0, this has got to be 10 to the negative 1. Centi, well, it's 100 times smaller, so this would be 10 to the negative 2. And milli, well, that's 1,000 times smaller than the base sets of units, so let's go ahead and write 1,000 times smaller. Or we could think of that as 10 to the power of negative 3. And just for 1 second, let's go ahead and write G for grams here, M for meters here, and a big L for liters. But how do we actually run up or down this staircase? How can we convert between metric units? All we've talked about so far are how many times larger the units are from one another, and how many times smaller they are from one another. All I've talked about are the units. We haven't talked about any numbers. But let's stop this video. We'll take a look at some problems in another one.